Good morning and thanks so much for joining in. You're watching Ask Profit. My name is Mathew. With me is Smriti Chaudhary. This show on NDTV Profit is geared towards getting you answers to all of your stock-related questions. If you've got them, then you can send them to us on any one of our social media platforms or indeed on the WhatsApp number that is flashing on the bottom of your screen. Let's very quickly get you a check of how the markets are faring right now this Friday. And you have very narrow movement on the benchmark Nifty 50. It is gaining about 0.1% off the low point of the day, but certainly off the high point as well. And the action on the broader markets is not too significant also. So you have gains of about 0.4% for the mid-cap 150 index, as well as about 0.5% gain on the small cap 250 index. So therefore, broadly, the market breadth tilted just a tad bit in favor of the advances. In terms of the sectoral performers, then you have the media index that is trading with gains of about 1.5% and leading gains. You also have the IT index that's up about 0.6%. Similar for the pharma index that is up at about. Realty is also doing reasonably okay. Healthcare is up about 0.5%. And once again, among the laggards, you have the PSU names, and particularly the PSU banking pack as a whole that's doing not too well in trade, down about 0.8% or 0.9% or thereabouts. Now, on today's program, we are focusing on Vodafone Idea. It is arguably one of the stocks of the day, and it is up quite considerably in trade. In fact, at this juncture, close to 9%. Some comments made by the chairman of the Aditya Birla Group. We'll talk about the context, of course, but first listen into what he had to say about Vodafone Idea.
ऐसा नहीं है, वैसे तो और भी बिजनेसेस हैं जिनके बारे में नहीं बात की मैंने. You are just picking out Vodafone. We remain very committed to Vodafone, and like we've said in public domain, efforts are on to get outside investors. And and I don't know what's prompting your question. I think we remain as committed to it as we have been in the past.
Good morning. That was the chairman of Aditya Birla Group, talking about how they do not plan to exit Vodafone Idea. Now, Vodafone Idea has been under a lot of stress because of its debt position. It has a debt of over 2 lakh crores. However, this kind of Kumar Mangalam Birla coming out and saying that they're looking for investors. Now, they have been saying this for a while as well. This has been going on for more than a year now, that they've been trying to find investors. If you look at a couple of numbers here, their gross debt, as I mentioned, is over 2 lakh crore, and most of it, at least 90% of it, is owed to the government. There are an AGR dues and other dues as well. So, and also one more point, Alex, they have promised, the promoter group has promised. Now, we don't know which promoter group, but I like to think it's Aditya Birla Group, because the London Vodafone Inc. has, the PLC group has kind of, in their books, the value of Vodafone Idea is zero.
Yeah.
So it's the Aditya Birla Group that has promised probably to put 2,000 crores only. Now, if you put it in context of the amount of debt they have, it's nothing. So considering all of that, but there is a very positive sentiment playing out. And even if you look at the stock performance, it's up about 131% in the last 6 months. So clearly the street is ready to put money into Vodafone Idea. But let's take a view from our guests today. We have joining us G. Chokalingam of Economics Research and Kunal Ramya of The Street. Welcome to both of you. Now, I'll start with you, Mr. Chokalingam. Tell us about your views on Vodafone Idea. We also have a viewer asking about this this counter. To be specific, he says he bought the stock at 8.9 per share. Should he continue holding on to for 6 months?
If he's a conservative investor, he should sell the stock. Unfortunately, there are a lot of new investors are buying, lapping up shares which are traded in single digit or double digit without looking into valuation. If you look at the valuation, it is trading at a 70 to 80% premium to Bharti Airtel. If you take EV to EBITDA, I think which is extremely unjustifiable considering the fact that Vodafone is not able to grow its business. In fact, once in a while it loses its market share. So therefore, fundamentally sell, there is no doubt about it.
All right. What about the technicals, though? Kunal, this is a stock, as Smriti pointed out, that's gained quite considerably. And I think a lot of people that invested when it was a penny stock have made a significant amount of money. The question is, should you continue holding or should you take this opportunity to book some profits? What does the chart look like?
Morning, Alex. Morning, everyone. So, with all due respect to the fundamentals, certainly the counter has actually making a clear higher top, higher bottom. If you look at the extreme bottoms of March 2023, the counter was somewhere at around 5 rupees 80 paise. And since then, this counter is showing extreme volumes coming up, and those volumes are on the buying side itself. Even in today's day, you check out the volumes, that's highest of the last entire month. So, as per the technicals, the trend is certainly intact. One can continue to hold this position. In fact, one can initiate the fresh by about 18. This is purely based on the price action. One can keep the stop loss now, maintaining the stop loss at around 16. I think one can continue holding, and the levels of 22 to 22 and a half are somewhat, the targets on the weekly chart. So with that target, one can continue to hold the position.
All right. So targets of about 22 from a shorter term perspective, on the technicals, of course. Next up, we have a question from Surya from Meerut, and they're talking about Vedanta. Now, this is from the perspective of 2 to 3 years. Mr. Chokalingam, how does Vedanta look considering the fundamentals?
Apparently, in terms of the earning, it looks cheap. But I would prefer a better name like Hindalco in the metal space, because in this balance sheet, if you look at its associate and subsidiaries and their accumulated losses and accounting, I do not get much confidence in Vedanta.
Okay, all right. Let's jump to the next question, and we've got Birla Soft to talk about, and this is Mr. Tangadurai who's asking about this counter, and he's looking at a very short-term perspective. Is it possible for it to go up? And he says 20 points, but I'm guessing 20 rupees is the question. So is it something like, is something like an 850 a possibility on a weekly time frame? What does it look like on the charts, Kunal?
So, Alex, if you look at the recent performance since 29th of Jan, so far this counter has been in sideways consolidation. The trend is massive. Undoubtedly, it's clearly making higher top, higher bottom formation, but this seems to be the time correction. Now, because our viewers' time frame is very, very short, I just brought it down to lower time frame. So we have a support coming at around 805, and the resistance is placed at around 840. Unless this counter breaks 840 on the higher side, the new rally seems little difficult. So, I would advise him to hold with the trailing stop loss of 810. Either 810 or the time frame, whichever gets triggered out earlier, should take an exit and revisit the counter about 840. I think the levels of 910 to 20 can also be seen once 840 is taken out.
All right. Next up, we have a question from Geeta, and they're talking about Praj Industries. Now, this is from a longer-term perspective as well. Mr. Chokalingam, we've seen sugar stocks come down, but there seems to be a positive sentiment around Praj Industries. What do you think about it from a longer-term perspective, from a 2 to 3 year perspective?
Yeah, definitely one can hold from 2 to 3 year perspective for two reasons. One, the stock has fallen a lot from its 52-week high. Most importantly, we all know the kind of business model they have. There could be ups and downs in the ethanol business because of the election and government policies. But over a longer period, definitely it should do reasonably well. So therefore, only for long-term investors, it's a hold.
Got it. All right. We've got Lavish from Indore who's asking about Balaji Telefilms, which he has bought at levels of 120, he says. Let's pull up the chart and see where it's currently trading. I believe it's at 137 or thereabouts. So he's making a little bit of money, but he's looking at a 6-month time frame. So Kunal, based on the charts, what are the kind of targets that he should look at? And if at all, what are the stop losses that he should bear in mind?
So, Alex, on the chart, the counter has really come up in a big way. If you look at the volume activities, they are really strong enough, and the counter is certainly in trend. But one needs to keep in mind that when such a massive rally emerges, there are always retracements and pullbacks which are also going to be sharper. Undoubtedly, one can hold on with the trailing stop loss of around 120 as of now. And if the counter remains near to these levels, I think 170 to 175 can be the target, and this target is based on 2017 and 18 previous high. So considering those levels, I think one can hold on with the trailing stop loss of 120 in mind.
Right. So just a clarification, Geeta's message saying that she is looking to do a fresh entry into Praj Industries. So the call on the fundamentals is a hold, but on the technicals, Kunal, what's the view on the charts? Is this a good opportunity to accumulate, or would you say that you should wait a little bit for better opportunities?
See, on the Praj Industries, we have seen the counter is facing the resistance of around 520 since a month now. So yeah, one can certainly initiate a buy above 520, and with the stop loss of around 485, one can expect the targets of around 580 also. But it's a conditional call to initiate a buy only above 520 on a closing basis.
All right. Next up, we have a question by Lokesh Shetty. He's written to us on YouTube. He's talking about our power, Reliance Power. Now, he wants to know if this is if it's a stock he should hold on for more than a year. Now, Mr. Chokkalingam, we've seen a lot of brokerages being constructive on the power sector as a whole, but Reliance Power, the Q3 results weren't as good. The losses has expanded. Their expenses are increasing. So, would you suggest buying into our power, or is there an alternate to our power that you would suggest within the power sector?
I think it's a good sell. Luckily, because of the bull run in the small cap, it has rallied a lot. I agree with you. There's a lot of debt, and there are a lot of assets which are yet to be turned around, put in operation. They are struggling. So it's a good sell. Alternative, unfortunately, even the high quality stocks like Tata Power, Torrent Power, they all gone up. So I would consider a good alternative for this kind of stock is a bank fixed deposits.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. Not even in the renewable space, Mr. Chokkalingam?
Unfortunately, even in the renewable space, if you take solar, the stock prices have rallied a lot. And look at the data point. The global prices of solar panels have crashed even 35 to 45%. And today, you would have seen in the media, 2023, the solar power generation, the demand or the actual implementation has come down a lot. But the market is not listening to all this. So that is why I said, if you are asking me to give alternative in power, honestly, I don't have alternative except the fixed deposits.
All right. And, rightly so. Even in the power financing space, Mr. Chokkalingam, REC, PFC, REDA, all of them have run up quite substantially. So your point is well taken. We've got a question on the technicals, though, of a company called Silgo Retail. Let's try and pull that up. In fact, this is Deepa from Bengaluru who's asking about this counter. She's bought at levels of 41.9 and she's got as many as 1,000 shares. It is currently unchanged on the markets right now. She's talking about having seen their rights issue as well, and she's wondering whether to hold. She's lost a little bit of ground. On the charts, Kunal, how does it look?
So I think she must have bought on 11th of Jan, where the counter hit that high. In fact, I heard this company name itself for the very first time. The counter is in lower circuit. The problem with these counters is that the risk management goes for toss, even if it comes down and one wants to exit the position. So I'm just sharing the levels, and on the charts, we can see the previous support, I would say the bottom at around 27. So I think one can hold on with the stop loss of 27. If the counter fails to hold this 27 mark, one should take an exit. But I'm little worried as to how the liquidity will play out in this counter. So for now, just hold on with the stop loss of 27 and try to exit such kind of counters. Though there is some corporate action which is visible, but I think one should take an exit from such counters ASAP.
Kunal, the next one we're talking about is SBI Cards. This one's from Namita. They bought the stock at 755 levels, and that's above the current market price. And the time period is 3 to 4 months only. So from a technical standpoint, the stock hasn't given much returns. Even it's down, in fact, 11% in the last 6 months. From a 3 to 4 month perspective, would you suggest holding on to this?
Yeah, certainly, Smriti, if you look at the overall formation since 2021, this counter has been in the roller coaster ride, and it's right now available right near to the support level. The extreme support is at 700. In fact, just a month back, I think it tested that level, and from there it has recovered. From the risk reward point of view, this is an amazing counter. One can certainly hold on to it. I think the momentum we will see once the counter manages to cross above 760. But yeah, for now, one can certainly hold on. Initiate a fresh buy above 760 with the target of around 825 to 830. Even I'm watching out for this counter, but as of now, the momentum is missing. Risk reward ratio is extremely favorable. Hold on to the position.
That's a view on SBI Cards. We have to slip into a very quick break, Mr. Chokkalingam as well as Kunal. Do stay with us. Viewers, we'll be back before you know it. Keep your questions ready.
Welcome back. You're watching Ask Profit. Let's quickly dive into the questions. This one's from coming, we're talking about Dr. Reddy's now, and this one's coming from Anand Kumar from Dharampuri. He bought the stock at 5,878 levels. From a longer term perspective, Mr. Chokalingam, will this be a pick within the pharma space?
It's definitely not a buy based on the valuation. Probably you can hold on since I am looking negative on small and mid cap. This kind of pharma defensive may not fall and it may protect the equity wealth. From that perspective, it's a hold.
And any targets that you might have, Kunal, based on the charts for Dr. Reddy's Laboratories? Maybe a shorter term time frame?
The lowest time frame, which is the hourly one, I think the counter is clearly making higher top, higher bottom formation, and this channel might just continue. So, what I would advise in such kind of counters where the target is really difficult to set is to keep a stop loss in mind, which is trailing stop loss. As of now, that's placed at around 6,200. With that stop loss, one can just continue to hold on and keep trailing the stop loss till the time the rally just continues.
All right. We've got the next question coming in from Dilip, and Dilip is writing in from Jamnagar in Gujarat. He's got Wellspun Living, which he's bought at levels of 165. He's got 500 shares. Any view on the fundamentals, Mr. Chokalingam?
Yeah. It looks, quite stretched in terms of valuation. I would give a sell call on Wellspun Living.
So let me take that further then to Kunal. Kunal, the sell call has come through on the fundamentals, but what levels should Dilip look to sell at?
See now, Alex, on this counter, we saw the rally from almost 60 rupees to 170 rupees in just 1 year time span. In fact, post-November, we have seen the sideways consolidation and the price consolidated near the high itself. I'm watching out for the breakout of 170. If the counter manages to go above 170, I'll consider this to be, the beginning of a new rally. And based on technicals, one can certainly initiate a buy above 170 with the stop loss of 160. And the targets can then be as high as 235 to 240. And this might just cross the previous high also. So yeah, there might be much more room for the upside. So wait for the closing above 170 with the stop loss of 160. Then one can initiate a buy.
All right. Next up, we have a question on Centum Electronics. Now, this one's from Ravi Kumar, and they have already bought the shares at 1,675 levels. And I think this is a long-term question. So, Mr. Chokalingam, I'm going to come to you on this. Now, we saw the profits jump on this stock in the third quarter. But from a longer-term perspective, would you suggest holding on to this?
No, before giving my view on the stock, I just want to tell you that I'm a little conservative in my approach. So there is a possibility of losing, market opportunity in the short term by listening to my views. So please take your own call. Centum Electronics is a great management, good, promoters, I believe. There is no doubt at all. But the rallied, and if I look at the valuation multiple, I do not have any comfort at all. So according to me, it's a sell.
All right, let's take a technical view on this. Kunal, would you suggest holding on to this, or is it a good time to book profits? And what are the levels for booking profits? Should you wait? Should you maybe look at some more time to stay in the stock?
See, again, this is one of those counters which saw the massive rally. And since August 2023 so far, this counter is not able to cross 1900 mark. In fact, there were 3 attempts to cross 1900 levels, but it was a failure. In fact, this week also, if you check the high, that was at around 1905, but it failed to sustain that level. So once this counter manages to close about 1900, I think a fresh rally of again 200 to 250 points can be seen. So wait for the closing about 1900. If our viewer is already holding, I would suggest him to take an exit for now. Just wait for 1900 closing, and above that level, one can reinitiate the buy with the stop loss of 1800. One can expect the targets of around 2100 to 2150.
Got it. Mohan from Talcher is asking about Bajaj Finance. He's pointing out that he's a senior citizen and a pensioner, so that is context for you. He's holding 10 shares, which he's bought at levels of 7,500, slightly elevated levels, and the stock is currently trading at 6,676. On the fundamentals, there are certain issues that have been highlighted by the regulator, Mr. Chokalingam, in the unsecured space, and I think to a certain extent the management has also taken stock of that. a lot to be said about capital adequacy, which is not a concern for Bajaj Finance. But I guess to a certain extent, one would expect that loan growth may not be as aggressive as it has been in previous quarters. With all of that in mind, what would you do with a Bajaj Finance?
Definitely, I agree with you. And also the PSU banks, after post-consolidation, they are giving tough competition to entire NBFC space. First time they have come back to on par with industry credit growth, these PSU banks. And on the other hand, Bajaj Finance valuation is highly stretched. Still, since he has bought at 7,500 rupees and also considering his growth track record, also high beta nature of the stock, probably he can hold on to it till 7,500 rupees.
All right. Next up, we have a question from Gangadhar from Mangalore. They're talking about Bharat Forge. They bought the stock at 1425 levels and they've recently bought the stock about 45 days ago. Now, they want to know if they can recover their investment and make some profit on it. This for a shorter term, for 3 months period. Kunal, from a 3-month perspective, possible for the stock to go further?
See, we have already seen a massive correction, and that was along with the volume. I think the extreme bottom has already been done on the counter. If you look at the overall longer term trend, it's still positive. So one can certainly hold on to the position right now. The levels which I'm watching out for are like 1050, which is a strong support. 1040 to 1050 is something to keep in mind as a support. If the counter by any chance reaches those levels again, one can initiate a fresh level entry at that level. The stop loss can be like 20-25 points, and I think this rally might just continue. But for now, in the immediate shorter term time frame, I really doubt on whether counter can bounce back looking at the recent correction. But yeah, these levels are worth certainly holding the position right now.
All right, fair point. Kunal, as well as Mr. Chokalingam, thank you so much for joining in and answering all the questions that you did answer today. And viewers, I know that we've not been able to take all of your questions today, but we've certainly taken quite a few. Hopefully some of them have benefited you as well, even if your specific question was not answered. We promised to take a few of those questions that you've asked on Monday. For everybody else, do tune in on Monday. We'll be back at 11:30. There's lots more lined up over the course of the day from Smriti and myself and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. Do stay tuned. This is NDTV Profit.